Let's get it. We back, and we got another Larry Bird reaction. If you're new to the channel, you are at the best reaction channel in the nation, in the world, to be honest with you. And if you're a Larry Bird fan, Boston Celtics, or you like basketball, you're at the right place. So hit that like button, turn your notification bell on, that way I don't miss out on no more of my videos, and also subscribe. But it's your boy DtaeNoDinero here, and yes, no dinero. I ain't got no money. I go to work just like everybody else. I like to do this reactions to Larry Bird because I'm a huge Larry Bird fan, and I love learning more about the old school basketball players. So, if you know anything about the old school basketball players, drop it in the comments and let me know something, teach me something. I love to learn. You learn something new every day. What you learn today? What did you learn today? Drop in the comments what you learned today. I know you learned something. But hey, don't let me talk y'all heads off. Let's get to this video because it's about 30 minutes long. Just giving you a heads up now. So, go get the popcorn. Go get you some water. Go grab a remote and get comfortable. We about to watch some Larry Bird. Hit the like button. Thank y'all for the likes too in the last video. Y'all been doing y'all thing. I appreciate y'all so much. So let's get to this video. Get this started. I know we don't like long intros. So let's go. Silly.
Larry Bird was just a white hick with a bowl cut who drank Miller Lights, chewed tobacco, fought bartenders, ate McChickens, had the back of my grandpa, and couldn't jump over a piece of paper. But he also had balls the size of King Kong, would insult his opposition for putting a white player on him, would tell you how he was going to score and then do it, create challenges for himself because the game was too easy, finished with 3 MVPs, 3 NBA championships, and etch his name as one of the best to ever do it, all due to his psychopathic drive to solve the game of basketball. Larry Bird might be a funny-looking dude from the 80s with a porn star mustache, a mullet, and a drinking problem, but he was also the baddest man to ever touch a ball. In a league that features some of undoubtedly the greatest and most physically gifted athletes the game has ever seen, how the hell did a slow-footed white dude who didn't have a lick of athleticism manage to not only survive, but absolutely dominate the greatest players of all time? Well, to find out, let's go back to French Lick, Indiana. Born in 1956, the fourth of 6 children loved one thing more than all, and I'm sure you can guess what it is.
Everybody in my town had the same things. It seemed like nothing. So all we did was play sports.
As a very impoverished family in a town where there really wasn't too much money to go around, Larry and his older brothers would hit the basketball court relentlessly. 1, because it was a cheap hobby to keep them entertained, and 2, because it hid them from their reality that was much, much darker. With 2 big bros who basically would kick his ass first and play basketball second, Larry quickly adapted to the hard-nosed, ultra-competitive, blue-collar environment, and quickly became the life of this small town of just over 2,500 people. As when he got to high school, this gym of 2,300 never had an empty seat to watch this kid play. He may not have been quick, he may not have been flashy, but standing at 6'9" as a senior, he was everything else. At 30 points and a crazy 20 rebounds a game, he not only would dominate you physically, but could shoot the ball, find his teammates, track down boards to a crazy extent, and had an all-around crazy mind for the game. But to be a genius in one area, you likely have to sacrifice in another. Simply put, Larry Bird was a bit weird. A quiet kid with a bowl cut doesn't exactly scream star recruit in the state of Indiana to play under legendary coach Bobby Knight. But after 24 days at Indiana State University, Larry Bird felt out of place and returned home, giving up on his basketball endeavors at the top of the world to become a garbage man with the city's sanitation department back in French Lick. Larry didn't have too many kids to talk to his age. He and his family didn't have any money, but Larry always had one thing: his dad that he shared everything with. Joseph Bird was a hard-working construction worker that Larry really wanted nothing more than to be like. If you worked 40 hours in the Bird household, you were a part-time worker. Larry recalled a time helping his dad with a broken and swollen black and blue foot into his boot before getting back out on the construction site. Bird's pops may have been a role model, but that didn't hide the disaster that was going on behind the scenes. As a Korean War veteran, Joseph Bird had his own issues he was battling. Living with the experience of a bloodbath as well as frequent unemployment issues with the limited labor force in French Lick, his method to cope with his struggle always involved booze. As his drinking problem forced his wife out of the marriage, the issues would only be amplified. As financial and substance issues would stockpile, a call to his then ex-wife regarding his late child support payments would end with him saying, "Maybe you'd be better off without me." He would be found dead later that day with a handgun, causing a ripple effect that Larry never recovered from. Everyone's reaction to tragedies like this are going to differ from individual to individual, and in Larry's case, he was pissed. And what he looked at as quitting on him and his family, Larry really had nothing. He was broke. He quit his basketball dream, and despite despite working his ass off for everything he had and everything he's achieved, he lacked the opportunity to turn it into something more than mediocre. This really could have been the last we heard of Larry Bird, unless you live in French Lick and he was snagging your trash. But an Indiana State head coach had heard about the best show in rural Indiana just 1 year prior and was not going to let this opportunity slip. With the motivations of turning his dead-end life into something, bringing his family out of the poverty that he knew nothing more than, and the weight of honoring his father's legacy, they may not have known it at the time, but that garbage man in French Lick may have just been the best college basketball player in the country. Despite picking up trash for a year, Bird didn't have an ounce of rust on him. Due to NCAA rulings forcing Larry to sit out a year, Bird was forced to practice with the bench guys for his super freshman year, where he'd basically pull a Jimmy Butler every day and whoop the starter's ass with a squad full of scrubs. It was a surprise to everyone except anyone who had seen him play before that coming into his sophomore year, he was one of the best players in the NCAA. Putting up 32 points a game without a damn three-point line is one of the best shooters to ever lace him up. Larry was never not the man on the court. Larry turned the 13-12 Sycamores into a 25-3 powerhouse after not playing a game for 2.5 calendar years, shooting 54% from the field with 13 boards, 4.5 assists, 2.8 steals, and a block. Larry Bird was a brilliant two-way point forward who may have just been the best scorer in the world.
Now we come to the subject of, this is bird country. Oh, this is bird watching country, but this is a rare bird. There's a meteor called Halley's Comet that appears once every 76 years. And that's what they call him down here, Halley's Comet. He has unbelievable ability, and welcome to Larry's world. Number 33, the center of 6'5" Indiana, Larry Bird.
It didn't take a lightning quick first step or biceps the size of your head to do it. Just a guy who can use every bit of his 6'9" frame through finding his spots, creating space, and taking what the defense gave him. Turn this garbage man on a nobody team to one of the best shows in college basketball.
I went in there and they had like a 13-13 season, and all of a sudden you go from having 2,000 and 3,000 people at your games to people can't get tickets.
Larry Bird was on the cover of every magazine, and the Sycamores were catching nationally televised games that they had never received before. But as the world couldn't get enough of Bird country, his quiet small-town energy didn't let them get any closer. He really didn't talk to any news reporters, you really didn't see him out. Bird was a mystery man that popped in and dominated, then disappeared before you could bother him. The glitz and glamour of being the face of the NCAA didn't really entertain him, but what did was willing his way to the top of college basketball.
Trying to set it up. The score, 4-2 Houston. Smith penetrates the lane. Feeds it off to Bird. He's there. He got it. What a move by Larry Bird.
The jump against Gilbert on Bird control, feeds off the call, next to goal.
Inside. Great pass. Oh, and that dunk over Watkins. He knew that was going in.
7 seconds to go. Reed gets it to Heaton, the clutch. Left hand! He made it! Bob Heaton keeps Indiana State undefeated. They're on to the Final Four.
Despite being drafted 6th overall in the '78 draft, Larry Bird was set on leading this unranked school to a tourney run as long as he could do it his way, and before you could blink, he was on his way to doing it. Climbing from unranked in week 1 to the #1 school week 13 on the back of an undefeated season, Bird country was in full swing and then some. It really made you understand why, even though you couldn't have him for a year, the Boston Celtics thought this dude was worth the wait. If you weren't eye on him through the regular season, you for damn sure were tuned in by the NCAA tournament, as the most anticipated matchup in sports would draw the highest rated finals in tournament history, while the world sat to witness the birth of one of the most infamous rivalries in sports history. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were set to define the era of basketball as we know it, with the biggest stage in college basketball set to kick it off. The battle between the player of the year and the upcoming 1st overall pick had all the makings of an all-out movie. Bird had established himself as not only one of the best players in college, but one of the best players to ever play in college. Running a mid-major team to the top of the NCAA is something that just doesn't happen. And with his 28.5 points, 15 boards, and 5.5 assists, Bird put together one of the most complete carry jobs ever. But Magic wasn't too far behind him. Far and away the best draft prospect this year with transcendent length, playmaking, and leadership, this colossal matchup had quickly grabbed the attention of the whole world, and they got their money's worth.
Good shooter on sophomore. Here's the great player Bird. Reed open. Indiana State takes it. Magic Johnson with the ball. Oh, he scores! And he is fouled. Look at Urban Magic to lead. Magic Johnson from 15, and he loves to hit that. The players are not hitting that perimeter shot. Oh, Bird! Great play by Bird, and he saves it.
That was an alley-oop pass,
Bird
almost trying to get
couldn't
it into Kelson.
Standing ovation. Magic Johnson, a 4-point play. And Michigan State has an 11-point lead. Bird.
Though he came up short, this one was a battle of the century.
Reload in the pass. Look at Johnson. Go. It's all over. Michigan State University, national champions, 1979.
Plenty of people were disheartened to see Bird lose, but plenty of people were also equally glad to see Magic win. The division of this rivalry put asses in seats at the college level, and with the picture-perfect story with Magic Johnson being drafted first overall to the Los Angeles Lakers, this revived the biggest rivalry in sports at a time where the NBA brutally was in need of it. The aftermath of the infamous Wilt-Bill Russell rivalry resulted in a decade of declining attendance and TV ratings. The NBA was desperate for face of the league to arise, and they were lucky enough to land two of them at the same time. Entering the NBA, Larry Bird instantly was one of the best players that the league had to offer. Despite some of his teammates refusing to allow some white kid to come in and steal attention away from them, that white kid led the 29-53 Celtics to the biggest single-season turnaround in NBA history.
I'm thinking, oh, he's slow, he can't get off a shot. He's not that strong. This is gonna be a layup. Bam, knocks down a jump shot. Okay, maybe that was luck. Gets the ball again. Bam, knocks down another jump shot. Now I'm thinking like, okay, hey, you know what? I'm gonna D this guy up. I'm gonna show him what it's like. 20 feet away. Bam, 25 feet away, bam. My mind just goes to the, damn, this white guy can play.
Bird was not only the best rookie in the NBA, taking home Rookie of the Year award over Magic Johnson, but Bird finished in the top 4 of MVP voting in his first season in the NBA. Playing with the three-point line for the first time in his career, Bird would average 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 4.5 times a game while dragging the Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals as a rookie. On top of being instantly the best shooter in the NBA, he was constantly seeing plays happen a couple steps before the crowd. After their worst season in 30 years, Larry Bird was the only piece they needed to complete the rebuild. The 1980s were looking like a straight shot to the top of the NBA for the Boston Celtics, and compounding with the offseason trade for Robert Parrish and the drafting of Kevin McHale, the NBA had just found its newest dynasty. But there was another team on the other side of the country who was looking at an even brighter future.
I am curious to know who was all on that rookie team. So Larry Bird became a rookie. Maybe this is his rookie year. We're looking at the roster of the Boston Celtics, maybe the 85, 84, I don't know. They got Robert Parrish on that team. They got Kevin McHale on that team already. Who else? Cedric Maxwell. And I can't think of the other guy right there, number 30. But I'm pretty sure he's a Hall of Famer as well. The reason why I'm only bringing this up and having this conversation and focusing on this part of the video is because, this whole big three thing that people do nowadays in the NBA. I was doing some research and I wanted to try to figure out, was there big threes back then in the NBA? And, obviously we had James Worthy, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Okay, we got Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. And I was just kind of curious how those setups, were they drafted there? Were they already there? Did they trade for them or whatever the case may be? That way I could separate the difference in between these big threes that we have now and the big threes that we have back in the day. And as you clearly can see, Boston Celtics big three, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale, and Larry Bird, it was an accident. So they really wouldn't be considered a big three in that type of conversation. These are players that are on a team. Larry Bird came to that team, and he helped make the team better to the point where those two individuals stood out just as much as Larry Bird to become a big three. Not a big three where Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal get traded to Phoenix Suns, and now we have Devin Booker, KD, Bradley Beal, and this is the new big three. Or, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, getting all going there and planning that. These are the difference between the big three from back in the day and the big three from these big threes now. That was an accident, and Larry Bird and just like Magic Johnson and any other great, Kobe, Michael Jordan, they weren't looking to get these pieces added to the puzzle in order to make this masterpiece. They were just, looking to make the team better and had one strong leader that helped make everybody else better. And then certain individuals stood out, and now they're considered a big three. So I just wanted to separate that because I'll be having a lot of debates with people, especially with the fact that I'm a Larry Bird fan, and a lot of people don't think that Larry Bird was as good or is as good as LeBron or Magic Johnson and so on and so forth. So in these debates, I always bring up the big three and how your favorite basketball player had to go accumulate his rings in order to, he accumulated his rings by, picking teammates and not building the teammates up in order for them to stand out and be a superstar like Kevin McHale became, Robert Parrish became, Danny Ainge became, Dennis Johnson became, and the list goes on. And that goes on. That goes for everybody in that conversation. So I'll let you drop in the comments and you figure out which faces of the league, superstars, GOATs, greatest of all time, that were on a team and helped their team become better, and then which greats went basically looking for an arsenal, some artillery in order for them to become better. So drop in the comments. I know I talked for about 3 minutes there, so I apologize if that was a long rant, but be sure to hit the like button. Drop in the comments on what you think about that take on, the big three and how Larry Bird was a real leader and he didn't have a big three. He created his team, made his team become better, and then they structured a big three. So drop in the comments. But let's get back to this video and let's see what the rest of this video is good. So I'm just listening
to complete the rebuild. The 1980s were looking like a straight shot to the top of the NBA for the Boston Celtics, and compounding with the offseason trade for Robert Parrish and the drafting of Kevin McHale, the NBA had just found its newest dynasty. But there was another team on the other side of the country who was looking at an even brighter future. To the disdain of Boston fans, the Lakers would finish the 1980 season with their 7th championship banner in NBA history. And to the disdain of Larry Bird, the rookie sensation Magic Johnson would be crowned the Series MVP as he watched from the couch. And what only motivated the NBA's ultimate competitor, the NBA was in for something wild this decade.
Bird puts up the shot and hit. Larry Bird got off. Is that too far out for him? Let's see who owns the Dawkins. Bird leading Maxwell. And Maxwell ties the game with Dawkins feeding Tiny. What a pass by Bird. Larry Bird. As Kevin pointed out, Caldwell Jones in there. Going to the hoop. Bird. He could not be denied. Larry Bird.
This Celtics team had enough talent to kill a horse, with the brilliance and perimeter scoring of Bird and the defense and interior scoring of Parrish and McHale. This team was led by two dudes in their rookie and sophomore seasons, and after sweeping the Chicago Bulls, the 76ers looked like they were ready to put these inexperienced kids to bed. Led by Julius Erving and Daryl Dawkins, the Sixers looked like they completely outclassed the Celtics, jumping out to a 3-1 lead in the series, but in what quickly turned into an all-out movie, Larry Bird turned this into a slugfest. With 32-11-5, Bird put the team on his back to drag them across the finish line in a 2-point game to finally get some momentum back on their side. In the most evident example of 80s basketball you'll ever see, these teams competed to the end with physicality that would put a modern ref into cardiac arrest. In a 2-point game in Game 6 and a 1-point nail-biter in Game 7, the Boston Celtics were officially back. In one of the craziest sports towns in the world, this unsuspecting white kid who had to leave college to pick trash just a few years ago was the new face of NBA basketball. Landing in the NBA Finals in just his second year in the NBA, the struggles to pack seats for the past few years were certainly not seen in the Garden. In a 6-game series that really shouldn't have gone that far, the Celtics made you forget that just 2 years ago, this Houston Rockets team had the MVP and Boston was the worst team in basketball. Larry Bird took control of the NBA, leading a dead-end franchise to an NBA championship in just his second year in the NBA.
Not being boxed off the boards, made an incredible recovery and shot it in with his left hand. Just a great shot. You won't see much better move than that. Seconds, one, and the world champion of Boston Celtics.
If Victor Wembanyama takes home a chip next year, the world is going to lose their minds. And that's exactly what happened in Bird Country. Larry was the new poster boy for basketball, with the mustache mullet man pictured everywhere you look. With the best regular season in the league in the 1982 season, the NBA had their new golden boys, as Larry finished second in MVP voting for the second year in a row, with 23-11 and 6 with 2 steals a game. Storming back into the 1982 playoffs as the new favorites in the NBA, the team that gave them the most trouble out of everyone came around for payback. In another war of a 7-game series, the Philadelphia 76ers had gotten their revenge and punched another ticket to the NBA Finals. Only problem was, Magic Johnson was once again waiting for them. Despite playing alongside one of the best players of all time in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic was the clear captain of that Lakers squad and was awarded with his second Finals MVP in his first 3 seasons in the NBA. In what seems straight out of a Disney movie as the league was at its lowest, 2 Midwest college players duke it out in the biggest college game in history, split to 2 major big market rival teams in need of young talents, and come in to win the first 3 finals they play. If this happened today, I think it would light the world on fire. And when it happened then, it was enough to catapult the NBA to all-time heights. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird might have just came in and saved basketball. Things may have looked up in the moment. Sure, Magic may have won a couple rings, but Bird was sharing that poster boy spot with him, was richer than his wildest dreams, and could sit back and enjoy the fruits of his labor. And that's kind of what he did. With his worst year yet in the league at 56-26, Larry was riding the buzz of being that guy a little too hard. Sliding into the second round with a pretty cakewalk matchup against Sidney Moncrief and the Milwaukee Bucks, the Celtics fell asleep and never woke up. In an embarrassing 4-0 sweep, the golden boy of the NBA was faced with his first real challenge. Despite reaching gold in just his second NBA season, Larry had ran into the playoffs as the favorite in the league and didn't even make it out of the Eastern Conference.
Wow.
Yes, he was a fun young star, but outside of his miracle run, who knew if this kid had it in him to keep it up and put himself among the greatest ever played? Well, I guess one guy knew. Larry Bird came out in the 1983-1984 season with a monstrous chip on his shoulder. It may have been cute for the young gun hit kid to come in and turn around a franchise, but after 2 straight losses and 3 straight runner-up MVP seasons, this is where we saw Larry Bird at his absolute best. Despite actually not shooting the ball very well, Larry Bird dominated the game physically and mentally. This really proved to be somewhat of a misconception of his game, as other than his rookie year, Bird only shot a pretty poor 26% from beyond the 3-point line up to this point. He didn't need the 3 ball to put up over 20 a game, even though later in his career this aspect was absolutely dialed. His mid-range shooting, post-up game, and craftiness with a big give-and-go game willed the ball in the basket when a little bit of size was his only physical advantage. But his IQ on the floor was on a whole nother level. Larry Bird used every tool in his bag to not only beat you, but pummel you, then let your ass know right after. Larry knew how to create advantages as well as anyone, with a quick array of head and ball fakes to get you going, and once he had the advantage, he had the touch to capitalize on every single one of them. And at 6.6 assists a game, he was the best passing wing ever up to that point, and even now holds up with some of the best ever dudes. Larry Bird was so damn well-rounded, and this season it was no question who the best in the world was, with Larry Bird taking home his first MVP trophy in his career. With Bird on top, the Celtics elevated right along with him, with Parrish and McHale on the blocks, Dennis Johnson coming into his own, and Larry Bird going supernova in the middle. This team was far and away the best team in the East, burying the Bullets in the first round, New York in round 2, and getting back to the Bucks in a personal ass-beating of an Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics truly looked unstoppable on the back of who some were already calling the best ever dudes. After 2 years of losing, the Celtics finally looked ready to turn this one-ring team into the dynasty that they were bound to be. The only problem was Magic Johnson coming out of the Western Conference had the same damn intentions. In their 5th season in the NBA, every year it featured one of the two in the NBA Finals. But 1984 would be the first time that two players who made the 1980s theirs would match up together in a must-see Finals matchup. And must-see it sure was. The revival of the Lakers-Celtics rivalry was back, and this time it was better than ever.
To Kareem, to Worthy, to Rambert. He should go the distance. Oh, look out!
And both benches have emptied, and you knew this was going to happen. You could see it coming.
Bird and Kareem fighting for the rebound, and Kareem hit him with an elbow, and he's upset now. Bird over there saying, "Why did you hit me?" And Kareem saying, "Listen, pal."
An all-out slugfest of physicality resulted in one all-time classic series. As back and forth as it gets, this series had it all. Late-game heroics from Bird with some massive scoring explosions, including a huge overtime win, and Magic Johnson showing why he was already the best playmaker to ever touch a basketball. Trading wins back and forth, this thing got ugly. Physicality up to wahoo, and even the hurdle of playing the Boston Garden with no air conditioning games 5 and 7. If you're a fan of 80s basketball antics, you've rewatched this series more times than any. At 27 points and 14 rebounds, Larry did everything he could do to win this series. When you're looking at a Game 7 in a 100-degree hotbox against Magic, Kareem, and Worthy, I don't think it's possible to feel comfortable about your situation no matter what, especially after a 4-quarter hounding in the Staples Center the night prior. When Game 7 came, it really could go either way. In a game that had the potential to shift the weight of the NBA on its side, it didn't matter how hot the Garden got. That thing was packed to the gills, and then they let a few more guys in. Despite a poor shooting night from Bird, the heroics of Cedric Maxwell and the contributions in every other aspect from Larry kept the Celtics on top late game. And with a mob of fans inching on the court, late game free throws from Bird put the nails in the coffin on the Celtics' 15th NBA championship in history. Boy, this one had to feel good. Not only is Bird a 2-time champion and MVP at 27, already putting himself among the best to ever do it, but tying Magic at 2 apiece while denying him his third had to feed that competitive need more than anything other. As the fans stormed the court to celebrate number 15, and Bird was clearly the number 1 guy in Boston, Larry was undoubtedly the biggest star that basketball had seen up to this point. As more eyes watch you and the lights get brighter, you either sink or you swim. Or if you're Larry Bird, you just walk on water, because as you couldn't get any higher, Larry Bird came into the next season as an even bigger star. He may have been cracking a few Millers in between seasons, but this dude didn't forget his 1,000 makes a day. Larry came out upping his average to near 29 points a game on an even better efficiency with a near 50-40-90 season, with no fall in his passing or rebounding numbers either. Larry, ever since coming into the NBA, had seen his 3-point stroke consistency free fall ever since being the best shooter in the league as a rookie. And after dialing in his game from 5 years of experience and upping his 3-point percentage to 42% in 1985, I don't know how you guard him, and neither did anyone else, as he would take home his 2nd consecutive MVP trophy in one of the best regular seasons to date. Bird was at his absolute best all season long. As the face of basketball, shit probably got kind of boring, dominating 82 games a year before you get back to meaningful games. He had to complete some side quests. After running a 5-mile charity race and blacking out on Miller Lights the night before, the Birdman might as well set the Celtics' all-time scoring record in Atlanta, dropping a 60-piece on a bunch of hopeless grown men. Bird was that guy, and he'd let you know it, keeping it interesting by telling the Mavericks bench where he'd catch the ball and shoot it before they could grab it out of the net, and then keeping his promise and giving them a wink. Bird was the best trash talker in the NBA. Even when matching up against a young Michael Jordan, he had to remind the Bulls that this shit was still Bird country. After a young horse Grant tried trash talking Larry, he let him know to a T he was going to fake left and go up with the right hook. I probably don't even need to let you know what happened next. An extra pretty humble occasion, Reggie Miller would make the same mistake shit-talking Bird right before he stepped up to the line. Bird stopped and stared at the kid in the eye and told him, "You gotta be kidding me." Knocked down one, looked at him again and said, "Rook, I'm the best shooter in the league right now. Understand?" And then knocked down the second. He even left off the best player in the league part of that too. Storming into the playoffs with the new shiny MVP trophy at home, the second award clearly didn't mean too much to him.
The MVP didn't really, after you win one, to me it really don't mean that much to win another one. The thing that you try to go for is the championships, because once you win an MVP award, it's yourself, you're by yourself. Once you win an NBA championship, the whole city's involved. All your Celtic fans around the country and the whole city,
The Eastern Conference at this point was too easy for Bird and the Celtics, taking home an improved 63 wins and stomping out old friends like the Sixers, who were no longer on the same planet as Bird. The 1980s turned into a battle for the NBA between two teams who wanted to see the other one dead. The 1985 season is really where we saw the Battle of the Titans, but in LA's favor, there were just too much to top. Kareem, despite being like 80 years old, didn't age no matter what. James Worthy is the best number 3 man the game's ever seen. Byron Scott's underrated as hell, and Michael Cooper is one of the best two-way players of all time. Hell, these dudes had Bob McAdoo backing up Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and with all this talent, had Magic Johnson of all people feeding them. Pushing them to Game 6 was kind of an achievement on its own, but for Larry, I'm sure this one stung as bad as any.
We as a team, we're playing like a bunch of sissies.
The Celtics were outmatched, and it's clear. And with their backs to the wall, they pulled the trigger on a move that was truly a gamble. The Celtics took a shot on the longtime injury-ridden Bill Walton's career, who actually played a huge role on this team. And Robert Parrish and Kevin McHale, and even Larry Bird at times, with his 6'9" frame, the onslaught in the post was relentless. Now with legitimate competition, the 1986 campaign was the best Boston team of the Larry Bird era. And when you compare them talent by talent, was more than likely the best Celtics squad ever assembled. This team clicked like none other. Larry could impact the game in a million ways, and the trust that these dudes had in each other showed on the floor night after night. At 67-15 and an extremely rare MVP three-peat for Bird, they were one of the most dominant squads in NBA history. At 26-10-7, Bird was still the best in the league, and at just a few buckets away from 50-40-90 with a new three-point contest trophy in its first ever go-around, he was the best sharpshooter the league had seen up to this point. After dominating the NBA, winning MVP 3 years in a row, and three-peating for second place the 3 years before that, Larry got back to fucking around the entire season. A matchup against the Portland Trail Blazers resulted in one of the most infamous FU games in history. After telling the Blazers that he was saving his right hand for the Lakers, Bird went out and torched Portland for 47 in Portland with his left hand while burying the game-winning shot. Bird was the baddest man in the league, and he was running a powerhouse straight to the top. In what was clearly the best team in the league and the best team of the Bird era, the Celtics curb-stomped the Eastern Conference. Sweeping the Bulls, nearly sweeping the Hawks, and sweeping the Bucks, Celtics stormed in the finals, losing only one game before matching up with an old friend. The new and improved Houston Rockets may have been the best set team to take down this powerhouse of a Celtics squad, as probably the only team with a better front court with the twin tower duo of Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. Their only problem was that they had no answer for Larry Bird, if that was possible. Winning the series in 6 games, the only thing on Bird's mind was how the hell they even let him win a pair. With 3 NBA championships, the Celtics were officially a dynasty, with more cinemas to show for it in the 1987 season, averaging 30-10-8 against one of the best perimeter defenders ever in a 7-game series, and another 27-10-7 to follow in one of the most memorable matches of the decade against the dirtiest team the game's ever seen. Bird had it out for the bad boy Pistons, but damn, they never made it easy. In a series that proved to be as physical as any, on the backs of crucial mistakes by the Pistons late game, like the game-winning steal and dish down 1 that's cemented in every highlight reel, and letting Bird get on a roll in Game 7 with 37-9-9 on 54-50 and 100% shooting splits. The Celtics had punched their ticket to the 4th straight NBA and their 5th of Larry Bird's legendary career. But duking it out in back-to-back Game 7s costed this team some legs. With an injured supporting cast and the toughest matchup in basketball with another Celtics-Lakers series, Boston was out of this one before it even started. At this point, it was clear to see that the squad that the world was fascinated over was on the back 9 of their run of dominance in the NBA. But despite Bird celebrating his 31st, he was still reaching highs he had never seen before. At 39-6 in the 50-40-90 club, Larry was really paving the way for volume shooters to an extent that had never been seen. But really more than that, he was changing the face of the sport. A couple of poor Midwest kids seen on every advertisement showed that even for everyday people, the best of the best might still have room for you, if you want it bad enough. And that's what Bird did. Bird may not have been the most talented in the league, but did the work prior to ensure excellence at every turn. No time more evident than the 1988 three-point contest. Looking for his 3rd win in the 3rd year of holding the event, Larry walked into the locker room, asked who was going to come into 2nd place, before going out and winning his 3rd straight trophy without even taking his jacket off. Yeah, just winning isn't enough for some people. Bird and the Celtics would set off into the playoffs, looking to make another deep playoff run. But this time, after another 7-game series, the stress, physicality, and pain that comes with competing against the bad boys Pistons was just too much for them. Larry Bird was a lot of things during this run. He was the best shooter in the league. For a while, he was the best player in the league. He trash talked better than anyone in the league, and he backed it up better than anyone in the league. And mostly, he worked harder than anyone in the league. Game or practice, Bird put his body on the line 100% of the time if it meant it was going to put his team in a better position to win, despite if the game meant anything or not. You wouldn't expect this from the best offensive player on the team, but as the guy who demanded the ball at the end of games, it wasn't because he was the most talented guy in the world with the nicest step back. He took the last shot at the end of games because he's taken twice as many shots in his life than the next closest guy on the team. Putting your career first and body second did elevate him to basketball immortality, but was also the buck shot that took Bird out of the sky. After ongoing back problems stemming from shoveling gravel in his mom's driveway to save money, Bird would sadly see his health steeply decline, playing just 6 games in the 1988 season. A back injury may have been the only possible culprit that could take down Larry Bird. With no real reliance on natural athleticism as a crafty jump shooter, going out the same as most plumbers was sad to see and weirdly fitting. But even while battling pain most people couldn't bear to deal with, Bird was still a top 10 player in basketball at 33 years old, putting up 24 a game in 75 grueling games, laying everything on the line to sneak his aging roster in the playoffs. Bird sadly left too much out on the floor, sitting out the first round due to injuries, as without their star, the Celtics were dead in the water with a 3-0 sweep. With 2 early exits in the following years and declining minutes, the back problems had officially put the Birdman out of commission, retiring from the NBA after 13 seasons that will live on for a lifetime. With career averages of 24 points, 10 rebounds and 6 assists on just under 50-40-90 for his career, Larry Bird easily put together one of the most complete careers in sports history. With a lineup of MVP awards cementing him as a top individual talent for years, Finals MVPs cementing his legacy within one of the most storied franchises in sports, All-Star selections every year that he played, and even a trio of 3-point trophies as the grandfather of the shot that took over basketball, Larry Bird's career may have been cut short, but I'm not sure the league could have handled another decade of the Birdman. At the end of the day, a small-town kid dealing with eternal grief really put a random school in the history books, revived the NBA during its darkest days, became the face of basketball for a decade, became globally recognized as an all-time great competitor, stacked awards to the ceiling, while inspiring millions of people across the globe in the meantime. That's not too bad for a garbage man out of French Lick, Indiana. If you enjoyed this video, check out my last one here, where we cover a team that hasn't quite seen the same fates. As always, thank you guys for watching if you made it this far, and I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace out.
And just like that, y'all, we got another great Larry Bird reaction video. Before we end this video, y'all, hit the like button. And if you ain't, subscribe. Especially if you're new to the channel. That way you don't miss out on no more of my videos. Also, turn your notification bell on as well. That way you don't miss out when I drop the video, and you can, keep up when I drop it. But this was a very good and entertaining video. New to the channel, you probably just learned a lot about Larry Bird. You've been here, and a lot of stuff that we already knew, but we love to hear it over and over again, because why wouldn't you want to hear such a great story of one of the greatest, if not the greatest basketball player of all time, Larry Bird, Larry Joe Bird, LJB. Tripping. But I do want to touch on a few things before I let y'all go here, because I don't want to make this video any longer than what it's already been. I do appreciate y'all if y'all still been here this whole time. Thank you. And the ones that like the video, thank you 2 times. But drop in the comments what y'all thought about the video. There's a few things that stood out to me. One of the things that stood out to me the most is that I always hear y'all in the comments talking about how y'all remember all of these great stories about when you were young, and how, you went to a Larry Bird game, and, you seen Larry Bird in action, or you're at the airport, or whatever the case may be. But Larry Bird spent a lot of his time during his career in the crowd. I'm curious to know, did anybody have the luxury to get their hands on Larry Bird? And did you wash your hand? And how long did you wait before you washed it? Because the guy in that video when Larry Bird dived to save the ball, the guy in the video did not want to let Larry Bird go. He had Larry Bird by the waist, holding him. He was in the crowd. He was not letting Larry Bird go. So does anybody have a crazy story, or have they ever had the opportunity to get their hands on Larry Bird? Shout out to that guy for understanding when not to let a good thing slip out of your hands. No. Dude's out of control. Why is you holding that grown man like that? Nah, that was funny. Nah, please drop in the comments if y'all ever had an opportunity to get your hands on any NBA player, a fan, a star, a musician. Let me know. I'm curious. Drop that in the comments. But another thing that caught my attention was the triggers. And those triggers was all of the times that Larry Bird had got elbowed and hit his ground on hit his face on the ground. When he was playing against the Bad Boy Pistons, it looked like somebody kicked Larry Bird in the head, wrapped their legs around his neck, and dragged him to the ground. Like, good grief, this is what you got to do to win. I mean, I understand it's a physical sport and all. This ain't cheerleading, but Jesus, this is not MMA. Keep your feet on the ground, sir. I mean, that's how you looks crazy. But I was kind of triggered off that. That's why I was kind of like so baffled by all of the different clips when Larry Bird was getting injured. But Larry Bird was a soldier. He was a trooper, so I can't be mad at him. I salute Larry Bird for being stronger than me because it probably would have been a fist fight. But it's been a great video. A few highlights that I did notice in the video. Larry Bird, greatest crash talker of all time, greatest college basketball player of all time, greatest basketball player of all time. I mean, the man's the GOAT of everything. That stood out to me. Also, I was thinking about this. So since you can only be MVP and you can only be Rookie of the Year, would you technically classify if a person wins Rookie of the Year as them basically like winning a title? I don't know. I feel like Rookie of the Year for Larry Bird is just as significant as winning the World Championship, because that's like an accolade. And that's you only can get one rookie, out of the whole draft. So I think that's something that I was thinking about that. I'm probably reaching here. If you don't understand what reaching is, it's just like a crazy hypothetical that's not even possible. It's crazy. Basically, that whole thought was crazy. But I might be reaching. But I don't know. What do y'all think about that? Do y'all think Larry Bird should count his 3-point competition trophies and his Rookie of the Year trophy as trophies on top of his 3 World Championships and give him 7? Should he have 7? I think Larry Bird should have 7. I think he earned 7. But hey, I don't want to talk y'all heads off. We already been here for 40 minutes so far. So I do want to thank y'all once again. I cannot stop thanking y'all because I'm completely grateful for everyone that does like the video, that does comment, that has subscribed, and that does have the notification bell on. So if you have taken the time to do that so far, I appreciate you, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you. I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I hope y'all enjoyed your holidays last year. What are y'all New Year's resolutions? Mine is to take this YouTube channel to the next level and bring in more people. That way everybody can know how great a basketball player Larry Bird is. It's your boy DtaeNoDinero. We out. Peace. Let's get it silly, but